If you're a part of the online art community, you've most likely heard of the 100 Heads Challenge before. Maybe you're even considering taking upon the challenge yourself, but are asking, is it worth it? I decided to take on the 100 Heads Challenge back in March of this year. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know I'm taking on Learn to Draw in 1 Year, a drawing program made by Mark Brunet. For March, one of the objectives was to do portrait studies. Now, I think these studies were supposed to be colored. Safe to say, doing the 100 Heads Challenge to completion for the first time, they most certainly are not. But having this objective seemed like the perfect opportunity to use the challenge as a way to practice what I had been learning thus far. I had previously attempted the challenge several years ago, but only drew 3 or 4 heads. My expectations going into the challenge were that I would come out of it knowing how to draw the human head quickly. I also thought I would build up a library of diverse and interesting faces to reference for my own art. For the challenge, I decided to use my G Pen, since I wanted to practice how to use it more and learn how I need to stylize my art while using one. Using the G Pen would also force me to make and be okay with any decisions I made, since I couldn't erase it or face losing a lot of time trying to white out the ink. I went into this planning to do the standard 10 heads a day, but immediately fell behind. My first day, I only completed these 3 heads. I had planned my challenge around the weekend, hoping to use all that available time to my advantage, but we ended up visiting family on one of those days, so I only finished this head that day. The rest of the days, I had to work the majority of the time, so very little got done on those days as well. I wanted to record the entire process of drawing the heads, but obviously couldn't do that at work. When I came home, I was exhausted and unmotivated to do any drawing. Plus, my art room has no overhead lighting, and with this challenge being in March, that limited my evening working hours. Choosing to use the G Pen was also a poor choice with such a constrained timeline. While I really like how the heads I did with the G Pen turned out, it simply takes me too long to use it for detailed drawings. The other issues were a little more out of my control. Since this was the first time I would be completing the 100 Heads Challenge, I wanted to use the original reference board. This saved a lot of time from having to find 100 different references that I liked, but left me with a ton that I would never have picked. As I said earlier, I really wanted to build up my library of faces, but I want to say roughly a third of the references were sculptures. Now, some of them were pretty cool sculptures, but when you're trying to understand how to draw the human head better, sculptures don't cut it. Even the most realistic sculpture has inherent bias issues in their construction as, well, they were made by a human. My other gripe with these references were that the female models had little to no diversity in age and beauty. The male models, on the other hand, were of various ages, musculature, some were even literal jugheads. So what did I do about all these problems? Well, other than force myself to work on it, there were only 2 major things I did that made this challenge easier for me. First, I began working on these studies off-screen during downtime at work. This is why I barely have any footage of the process after like the 4th or 5th day. Second was trying to find different ways to work with my G Pen. I began using only vertical hatching like in this study, and then for wet hatching altogether like in these studies. Eventually, I had to give up on the G Pen, as much as I didn't want to, and started using my Koday brush pen. This saved me so much time without sacrificing the quality of my studies. Looking back on this challenge, there are several things I would have done differently. While using the original reference board saved time initially, it also caused severe burnout on this challenge later on. Most of the images during the later stages of the challenge are sculptures. As such, I wholeheartedly recommend that you find your own references to use for this challenge. They are more tailored to the kinds of faces that you're attracted to drawing now. You can always do this challenge again and modify the references you use for your future endeavors. Knowing that I was going to be showing my results to other people, I wanted to make pretty spreads and use some fun tools and inks, but all of that wound up getting in the way. If I realized how easy it was to use the Koday pen to get the results I liked, I would have used it from the start. It may be worth it, while planning your challenge, to test out a couple of different mediums to see which one works best for you in this situation. As for making things pretty, don't worry about it at all. As long as you put effort into this challenge and do some pre-planning, your studies will turn out great and get better as time goes on. My last problem, which I mentioned earlier, was trying to film everything. Instead, I think I would have been better off to say I'll film at least one of these a day and not worry if I get the rest or not. That way, I'd still have the process of one head to show how things were going for that day, but with the flexibility to do the other 9 off-screen. Now, with as much as I've complained, I'm sure you're wondering if doing this challenge was worth it. For me, this time, honestly the answer is no. I just don't feel like I accomplished any of the things I set out to do by taking this challenge on. I was able to see the problems I was having constructing heads, but those issues were ones I already knew about beforehand, such as my slippery face syndrome and massive foreheads. With that said, do I plan on attempting it again? Yes I do, but I think I'll do it more on my own terms. I'll make my own reference board and probably extend the time to accommodate a studying habit rather than forcing myself to rush through it. Now don't get me wrong, the 10-day limit this time was fine, and being able to complete the challenge left me with a sense of pride. It just doesn't facilitate any of my current art goals. So do I still think it's worth it for others to try this challenge? Absolutely. However, understand that it will take several hours of your day if you're trying to make quality studies. I suggest going into it wanting to better your understanding of the human head, so that even if you only finish one drawing, it'll be worth it. And if you like the studies in this video, you can find a digital zine of all my challenge studies over on my Ko-fi. It's pay what you want, so you can download it for free. My members can easily find these studies in a private gallery album too. I also have stickers, wallpapers, and a couple other things in my store, so be sure to check them out. If you like my videos, consider subscribing to my channel and over on my Ko-fi to receive monthly wallpapers, stickers, prints, and more. Supporting me over there allows me to keep making art and videos. Until next time, take care.